Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this Blab session. I'm Reverend Catherine Ewing, and I am delighted to have my friend Sylvia Becker-Hill with me today. We are just saying we never quite know what might happen here because it's just going to be freewheeling and free-flowing, and we will see where Spirit leads us. As you can see, Spirit has already led Sylvia to show up with blue hair. And it's actually one of the things that I love about her. You're never quite sure which aspect of Sylvia might arrive at any given time. And I'm still fairly new to this because we've only known each other for a short time. But I have had the pleasure of seeing you in several different representations of you and your powerful self as showing up as different women. And so I'm just delighted to see who else might come through as we hang out here today. So I'm, as I said, delighted to be doing this series. It was really just sort of something that occurred to me to do, and I put out the clarion call, and like immediately 30 women said yes. So I'm just having a delightful time having different conversations with different women about birthing our feminine power, what that means. Everybody has a slightly different take on that. So before we actually get into the conversation, Sylvia, I'm just going to invite you to let the listeners know a little bit about who you are, your work in the world, I know you just had a recent, very exciting, recognition, I guess is the word that I want to use. And so please feel free to share whatever you want to share about yourself, your background, and then I'm sure more of that we'll weave more of that in as we go, but take it away, Sylvia Becker-Hill, Uber woman.
Okay, my dear. And I want to officially give you also the permission to always be allowed to interrupt me, because sometimes my passion and enthusiasm can go through with me and then I talk too long. So, or if you find something of value to go deeper or to clarify it more. So please always jump right in. I don't take it personal when you interrupt me.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Gotcha.
So to take some fixed attention away from my hair, it has one very practical reason. I had such a bad hair day that I felt it's time for a wig today. And then I looked into my collection of different colors, and they all symbolize a different emotion for me. And this one specifically is from a Pixar Disney movie Joy, the figure Joy of Inside Out, the movie. So I thought it's such a joy today here to talk about feminine power. Why not wearing Joy's hair today to express that? Because there's also the American saying, I feel blue, which is more like a heavy, dark kind of emotion.
Just not.
And since the movie Inside Out, Joy made the color blue for me now suddenly a very joyful and very light color. It's not normally a color I have a lot in my life, but thanks to Joy, I bring it now literally on my head into my life.
Well, you've inspired me to see the movie.
Yes, so I'm Sylvia Becker-Hill. I'm the founder of Woman International Inc. It's a global women's empowerment company. I'm in business as a coach and change management agent at the corporate world since over 18 years. And in the past, I have worked with a lot of women, helping them to break through external glass ceilings in their corporations, in their companies, in their nonprofits, or even in the political arena. And yet I was still on my own journey, a bit hiding from my own power. So I didn't step up fully to be publicly known as the woman's empowerment wizard, as this female CEO maker. I was known as a corporate change agent. And yet, more than 50% of my clients always have been women, which is statistically, especially in the last 18 years, where women were just breaking into the realm where executive coaching was common, was quite a high number. So I had to go through my own resistances to embrace my power, to step up, to be successful, to be visible. I had a lot of layers of fear, like an onion, constantly peeling another layer, another veil of me. And to be able to found my new branded business, Woman International, where I just follow now my soul's calling. I know I'm here on this planet to support, to catalyze the next phase of evolution for women. When I look to history, and especially in the United States, there was the notion of Wonder Woman in the first half of the last century. And that woman, if you look into the research, it's fascinating. Wonder Woman was like a projection screen where society projected all qualities which were absent in society and needed. They projected that on Wonder Woman.
I'm going to interrupt you for a moment, because every once in a while your sound goes out. Yep. And we're missing some key elements. So you said Wonder Woman, and all of the characteristics that she represented. Say more about that.
She was functioning over several decades as a reflection screen where society projected their needed qualities. For example, if there was physical power needed in times of war, suddenly Wonder Woman had more superpowers than Superman. If there was a time during peace where going back to the kitchen and cooking and femininity was needed, Wonder Woman was suddenly differently portrayed. So there's really research out there about the comic figure Wonder Woman and how she changed portray over time, reflecting certain needs and desires and qualities lacking in society. But she had little to do with real woman. And you and I, we never were Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman was an abstract ideal somewhere in the sky. And then starting after the 60s, after the sexual revolution, after the invention of the contraception pill, started the rise of the superwoman. Women who now, with the right to vote, the right to get into the work field, were conquering literally the corporate world. And the pressure on superwomen was so high that in the 80s, remember these horrible shoulder pads they put into our business suits? So we even tried physically to mimic our bodies with like a man. I'm powerful, I'm strong.
Well, that's to go with the briefcase.
Yes. So the whole paradigm of superwoman was we had to be more male, more powerful, even in our body shapes, more triangular, wider shoulders than any man, in order to fit in order to fit into a world which was created without us.
Right.
Does that make sense?
And yes, because I mean, this is my journey too, because when I talk about the divine feminist, I'm looking at the evolution of feminism, right, over that time. And you're right, if you go back when you were describing Wonder Woman in her different iterations, I was thinking of, oh my gosh, and the name is forgetting me, but the women who actually went to work in the factories, right, when, as a former union organizer, I should remember this, but when the men were off in war, the women stepped in and basically ran the war machine here, right? We did that. We went into the working world. I don't know what we did with our kids then, because we didn't really have institutionalized daycare, but we went in, we did those factory jobs, right? But when the men came home, then we were expected to step back and put on our apron and, move back into that more domestic role and give the jobs back to the men. So there was this, even as Wonder Woman, as you say, was changing, so was culture and society and the role that women played.
And one positive side effect of the horrors of the First World War was really the vote for women, the right for women to vote was a benefit of the First World War, because the men in public, in political high leadership positions, they realized, oh my gosh, we can't win the war without women. We need them. We need them to create weapons to our guns, etc. So the pressure on governments in Great Britain and later here in the United States to finally give women the right to vote was really coming from the fact that if we would have all went on strike and stopped working here in the homeland, the frontiers would have collapsed and the war wouldn't have been possible to win. And that's long gone. Let's talk about now and the future. So for me, I was a superwoman. I was stressed. I was a perfectionist. I was this typical personality type A superwoman, trying to have it all, be it all, always on the verge of overworked and overstretched.
Overwhelmed.
And overwhelmed. And for me, thanks God, in my research into different disciplines of science, there are indicators since around 10 to 20 years that evolution worldwide is trending towards a new phase globally, from male-dominated patriarchal culture to true partnership between men and women. And that also needs a new kind of female leader. So the time for superwoman is really, really over. We don't need to squeeze ourselves into a male shape to fit in. It's now time for Überwoman. And the word Über with a U with a two double dots is a German word. It means one of its kind and also fertile and abundant. So for me, that word is just perfect to give a label to the new kind of female leader, which I see arising everywhere.
Well,
in corporate,
for defining that.
Yes.
Because not knowing the word Uber, it almost could take on that Wonder Woman or Superwoman feel. For those of us who don't understand or know the more feminine energy that you just described.
Yes. Exactly. That's the reason why I point this out, because there are other companies who use the American word Uber, which is just an U without the double dots or without the UE. That has a bit of a different connotation. Mm-hmm. So the fertility and abundance is not of that word. So the new female leaders, they are bringing back their feminine essence, their female authenticity. They are refusing to be leaders, let's say a bit harsh, as male clones. They refuse to copy male ways of doing things. They, not in general, there are ways men do great things. I mean, right. It's about partnerships, men, and there are great things we can learn from men, and then there are things which are not fitting, right. Where either the way we are constructed or wired or our values are not aligned with the blueprint we saw created before we entered the workforce.
One of the things I was going to say before, and I actually forgot because I went off on a little bit of a tangent, but when we were in those business suits, and I didn't really work in the corporate world very much, so this isn't really my personal experience so much, but certainly plenty of.
You're stuck, my dear. I can't hear you in the moment. Your picture is frozen. You say, oh! Can you still hear me? This is always the issue with new technology. Blab, it's a real experiment. In the moment, you are still frozen screen and I can't hear you. I hope you still can hear me. Now it looks like you are calling back in. We were just talking about how it was the times of superwoman and working inside the corporate world, wearing a business suit and a business case. Okay, I see you knocking. I hope you come back in. Hello, Catherine. Now you dropped out completely. Now you're coming back. That's excellent. So for those who are listening and watching live, I keep talking a bit about the content while Catherine is here working on getting back into the platform. So for Superwomen, the challenge was really to play a game where they haven't designed the rules and haven't designed the playing field. And now, since around the change of the century and the new millennium, it's time for a new kind of female leader where we are partnering with men together, where we are partnering and collaborating with other women, which is a big issue for female leadership and power, to define the overall game, to define the playing field, to define